Well, hello and howdy, Scott. How are you, my man?
I'm living the dream. CC, how are you?
I'm great. I wish I had a verdant plant next to me like you do
Yeah,
over
dude.
there. Yes.
Maybe my thing, like I might just start switching it up. I've had a couple of my clients have on my other job have commented on that, just about how like I think I've changed the plan probably like 3 times, but just invested in a new dresser. If you follow me on Twitter, you saw my journey, I guess, as it
You're right.
were, of trying to put
Yes.
this thing together. It's no joke. Thing came in like 500 pieces, and my first experience putting IKEA furniture together. And I guess I was under the impression that it was easy. It was supposed to be easy to do, and it was anything but that. And everyone's like, yeah, no, that's what they're known for. They're notorious for how difficult their things are. Cheap stuff, but it's you pay for it in other ways. I guess in time you pay for it that way. So, but I like it. So I invested in that. I think this plant looks a little bit better on it. So that's where we're at. But maybe I'll switch it up next time in a couple of weeks
No,
and
man.
we're hot back on. So
Hey, it looks good. I like more greenery in the shot. It looks, like I said, it looks verdant. That's a good adjective for it. So.
My mom keeps commenting on how like I've lived in this place for probably like 6 weeks since I moved in, and still have not hung up a single poster, artwork, nothing. These walls are pretty bare. So
yeah.
I haven't figured out the feng shui of my room, and it's taken me some time. It's an oddly shaped room, so until I get like all the furniture where I want it, then I'll frame it with some pictures and stuff. So stay tuned, Mom, if you're listening.
Oh, she is. I mean,
I don't know why I said that.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, Diane, how's it going? Yeah, it took me a year and a half to get that up. Although, in all fairness, that was a recent Christmas gift. That little puck holder made out of actual game-used NHL hockey sticks.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. A couple of familiar names on there: Pavel Datsyuk, Henrik Zetterberg. Pretty familiar Detroit names. Of course, the company's based out of Michigan. Yeah, I know. The company's based out of Michigan. Yep, exactly. So anyway, so that's our little intro, our little primer. Welcome to Front Range Hockey, the Front Range Hockey podcast. I'm CC Hawkley. That's Scott McDonald. Welcome to episode number 24. Patrick Nemeth, if you're in the modern Avs era. John Clem, if you want to go with a throwback. Number 24 of Front Range Hockey. So anyway, let's go first things first. We'll talk a little bit of Utah Grizzlies and a player that actually Eagles fans were pretty familiar with this season, Riley Woods. He had his ECHL rights traded to Orlando to complete a future considerations trade from March 16th. That happened the past few days. Woods played 26 games with the Eagles, so he played more games with the Eagles than he did with the Utah Grizzlies this season. He only played 11 games with the Grizz. So 3 goals and 8 assists for 11 total points with the Eagles, 4 goals, 12 assists for 16 total points with Utah. And he is heading over to Orlando and his ECHL rights. Anyway, he was loaned to the Eagles. So he's unfortunately, he was a good line bait with Alex Newhook when they were, together. Briefly, yeah. I mean, but hey, I mean, it's something I noticed when I saw games in person. But speaking of the Eagles, this is our first episode where we have a guest, and he's knowledgeable about all things Eagles. He's covered them in the Central Hockey League days. He's covered them in the ECHL days. A couple Kelly Cups under his belt in the broadcast booth there. And now, of course, the AHL level. If it ain't broke, definitely don't fix it. AHL broadcaster now with the Colorado Eagles, Kevin McGlue, joining the program. Kevin, thank you for coming on, my friend.
Well, thank you. It's quite the preamble. The first guest, is that right?
It is. You are the very first guest. Yes.
How about that? And you know what? I don't want to be high stepping on Scott, but I've got a point up there too.
It's looking good. Yeah.
I want you to see that.
Nice. Okay.
Kevin had to show off his own greenery. Yeah.
That's right.
Bring a second plant next episode.
I got to get a plant in here just in general. I have no plants in the office here.
You're some brand though. You got the hockey stuff going on.
I do.
We got shrubbery, so
we do have. Bring me a shrubbery, and Kevin and Scott answered the bell, but I apparently did not. So anyway, Kevin, thank you again for joining the program. Of course, we're gonna mix things up. Normally, we talk about the Avalanche first, but we would be remiss if we didn't talk about the Colorado Eagles first. So first and foremost, Kevin, in this most unorthodox season in North American pro hockey history, how are you recovering, and how was it just in general? I know it's kind of a vague question, but I mean, yeah, you're on the tail end of it now, and how was it just navigating this crazy year?
Yeah, you know what? I think you almost have to go back before we got back to play. And I think you almost have to go back to when the previous season was canceled to kind of put it in perspective. I think all of us, when the season was at that point paused and not canceled yet, we were hoping. And I think just like everybody else in the world was hoping that, you know what, maybe that 15 days was going to be the real deal. And maybe it'll be a month. Maybe we'll get back in the summer and it will just be really shortened. It'll be truncated. And then you realize, well, no, that's not going to happen. It's going to be canceled. And then you wondered, are we going to even have a season next year? And then you started creeping into the fall and you said, well, how are you going to make this work? How is this going to happen logistically? And how are you going to get all these players in the same room at the same time and traveling? And we're kind of on an island with the Eagles and having to head out to California quite a bit. And most of our travel is on a plane, not on a bus. So it was pretty impressive to see what the American Hockey League did, what the Avalanche organization and the Eagles organization did, and particularly our head athletic trainer, Brent Woodside, and all the athletic trainers who were really the COVID czars for their respective teams. And I mean, we were testing 3-4 times a week. And, it was strange. It was one of those things that you knew it was kind of surreal that, hopefully you'd never face this ever again in your life and having to be in a situation, the world to be in a situation like that. But, there were just a lot of times where, just like the rest of the world, you kind of felt like the hockey was secondary and you just wanted to get the season going. You wanted to get it in. You wanted these guys to have a chance to develop and help out the NHL teams. And, a lot of hard work and a lot of people being pretty dedicated to the whole process, including the players, allowed that to happen. But it was strange. I mean, it was very strange, and not having fans in the building. And you guys have been in the building at the Budweiser Event Center when it's full and when it's rocking, when it's at its norm, and to not have fans there, it was just surreal. It really was, and it made you grateful to be watching live hockey because not many people were. But it really made you miss what you knew that place could be and what all these other buildings typically are that you go and visit. And to see, instead of San Diego with 12,000 fans at the sports arena, you're playing at a practice rink. So it was just, it was, hopefully something you look at and say, wow, remember when. But it was just something that it was unlike anything you could ever really imagine. And then the playoffs, you get there and you say, well, are we going to have playoffs? And somehow they were able to make that happen in the Pacific Division. So, I think it was good just to get a little bit of normalcy back, get the foot back in the door of getting into a rhythm from all of us in the office to all the players, the coaches, the trainers. But I think everybody's really happy to turn the page, to move into the off season, and to get ready for some normalcy, hopefully, that comes with late July and into August, and particularly when you get into September and October. So it was good to a good extent. We got to play, but I think everybody was ready to turn the page. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I mean, historic, unique, and whatnot for all the wrong reasons, I suppose. But I think we're all pretty stoked to turn the chapter there and get used to it. I mean, we're committed to a full Budweiser Event Center in October. I know everyone's probably pretty stoked about that, but we didn't get a chance to talk to too many players this season. But I don't know if you picked their brains, talked to them, but I mean, what was it like in their perspective? I know CC and I and you obviously were covering every single game and in that empty stadium, and it's eerie. It's it's not a friendly atmosphere. I don't know what you want to call it, but it was interesting. But what was the players' perspective on that? Did you ever talk to them about that? Did they, were they obviously happy to play hockey, but it's just not the same game without those fans?
Yeah, it didn't take too long, maybe a couple of weeks in to the season before guys were coming out and saying, boy, we really miss the fans, and this is great, but it's not the same, and it's not what we love about playing the game, at a professional level is you love the fans. And I think everybody, I don't want to say took it for granted, but that was just something that was going to happen, and you loved it, they loved it, and it was a great marriage, and all of a sudden one of those pieces isn't there, and everybody missed it really dearly. And it did not take long before that set in. But yeah, talking to guys, it was interesting. It was almost like going back in the Wayback Machine to some of the places we go in the Central Hockey League where they didn't get a ton of fans, and you kind of had to manufacture your own atmosphere, and you had to get your energy level up. And sometimes I think, and you get this from players, one of the issues that you have at the BEC is the atmosphere is so great and it's so dynamic then it raises all boats and it helps both teams and it gets their energy level up as well. But it reminded me of those days where you got to manufacture your own energy. You've got to come with the right attitude. You got to find a way to dig deep. If you're down a goal heading to the third period, you just have to find a way to get it done. So, I think that it was just like the rest of us. It didn't take long, and you drastically missed having fans in the building.
Yeah. No, for sure. Again, I mean, I think we're all pretty pumped to get back to what it is, and we can kind of preview, the next season. I guess before we do that, recap some of the changes, obviously, and I think I'm jumping ahead for CC here, but a lot of changes in the front office and ownership for the unfortunate reasons. Obviously, the passing of Ralph Backstrom, who's a hero in the Northern Colorado hockey community, and for the Eagles, we all know how important he was in that realm, just bringing the love for the sport there. And then a few weeks later, whatever it was, you got Chris Stewart stepping down. So I mean, how was that change? For you, I know those guys very, very well personally, worked with them for decades. How was that change for you, and how did that kind of just change the dynamics of the Eagles as an organization?
Yeah, first of all, the loss of Ralph Backstrom, it hit all of us very, very hard. And, it was a case where, the first person that he went out and hired was Chris Stewart. And the first person that he met up here was Martin Lynn. So, I mean, these are some roots that run really deep. And I was fortunate to get to meet him prior to them starting the Eagles in 2003 when I was working in radio. So, we've had a chance to really get to know Ralph, and he's a guy that never really talked a lot about his legacy and what he did, what he accomplished. But, to win 6 Stanley Cups, the NHL Rookie of the Year, the NCAA Coach of the Year, invented the rollerblade, invented the rule book for roller hockey, and you don't hear about that. And to me, I guess the one thing that bothers me the most is that's a guy that not only should be in the Hockey Hall of Fame, he should have been put into the Hockey Hall of Fame while he was still with us, and there to have everyone appreciate what he did for this game. I hope they right that wrong and get him in there, because he deserves a spot in the Hockey Hall of Fame. So I hope that happens. And that's a guy that everybody sorely misses. They miss him here in Northern Colorado, and you miss him not seeing him at the building. I mean, that was a guy that never missed an Eagles home game ever, and would show up dressed to the nines, and was just as classy of a person as you're ever going to meet. And I know, Scott, you would see him when you'd come to the games. He would be walking around. He would love to shake hands and talk hockey with everybody that was there, and talk Eagles hockey. I mean, he loved it. Absolutely had a huge passion for the team that he founded. So that's going to be a big hole for this organization. And obviously, as you had said, a guy like Chris Stewart, who helped bring so much success to this organization and helped bring 4 championships here. And a lot of those banners that are hanging up, he has a huge authorship on those banners there. But, a chance for him now to spend some more time with the family and grandkids I know that he loves so much, and still be up in the area. And now have Brian Petrovic step in, and Brian's been fantastic, just terrific, and a guy with a tremendous amount of experience at the American Hockey League level and USA Hockey. So I think we've all really enjoyed having Brian in the office, and looking forward to starting and continuing this off season, especially now as it starts to pick up a little bit more and there's more activity, and we get closer and closer ramping up to that regular season and dropping the puck in October.
Kevin, with Petrovic taking over, I know he was CEO and president of the Stockton Heat for 3 years prior to assuming the role of president and alternate governor of the Eagles. And, he's also got that ECHL experience with the Adirondack Thunder and hosting an ECHL All-Star game. So to parlay that into Colorado and Loveland, do you think that'll play a factor in maybe the Eagles getting the chance, or at least Loveland, Colorado, rather, in the Budweiser Events Center, a chance to host an AHL All-Star game?
I wouldn't put it out of the realm of possibility at all. Absolutely not. And I think that's something that the league would probably be very interested in. I think the Eagles would be very interested in taking a look at it. And having put on a CHL All-Star game and an ECHL All-Star game already, I know how much work everybody in our office puts in to putting those things on. And I think that's one of the things that's forgotten. And you think about the Rockies and finding out as late as they did, they're putting that on. There were people in the office, I'm sure, thinking, you got to be kidding me. Doing what? But it is once it all culminates, it's such a cool event, and you're going to see so many future NHL stars that would play in an AHL All-Star game. That I think absolutely that's something that maybe could be out there for discussion on the horizon.
Well, and hey, like you said, CHL All-Star game, ECHL All-Star game, AHL All-Star game. Why not go for the hat trick? I mean, come on. That is the rarest of rare hat tricks in minor league hockey for sure. And when you talk about trying to hustle together like the Rockies are doing to get the Major League Baseball All-Star game going on, how about new Pacific Division foe Abbotsford? I mean, for crying out loud. I mean, this Friday they're going to be revealing their nickname and their jerseys, I'm assuming. And it's like, man, they've got to hustle too to get their team, moved from Utica, New York to Abbotsford, BC up there in Canada. I mean, they've got to hustle to put together an identity, for crying out loud.
Yeah, that's a lot of moving parts. That's a lot of logistical work that I don't envy, but you know what? We're excited, and I think every team in the Pacific Division, especially, is excited to add them to the mix. And you never know who your next big rival is going to be. You don't know if it's going to be one that starts to develop with a Bakersfield, or maybe a team like Abbotsford comes in and bang, all of a sudden you got yourself a ready-made rivalry that just develops. Those things can happen. So I think it's exciting. I think it's great for fans to get to see new teams. I think that's something that's good to see across the AHL as a whole, is starting to see more teams, whether it's from the Central or the East, coming into our building, and vice versa, just for fans to get a look at not only different teams but different prospects. I mean, it's amazing night in and night out at this level, the players that you see that all of a sudden they're in the NHL, and not only are they there, they're flourishing. And I think everybody knew that Alex Newhook was going to be a star and had that capability, and it was nice to have him while we did. And you know what, for the fans that came out to a game and watched it in Henderson, all of a sudden you had a chance to see that kid before he made that jump to the NHL. So every single night you come out, whether you're a broadcaster or a fan or a media member, you're going to see somebody, and you can say, you know what, I saw that guy way back when, and it's pretty special.
One of the unfortunate things, kind of backpacking off that, is, in this season, we saw so many first-round draft picks with the Eagles. And, obviously with everything shut down, none of the fans could really enjoy that unless they had the AHL TV, subscription, which is unfortunate. But it really is. It's an exciting time to be, an Eagles fan, an Avs fan. It's, the pipeline is stocked, and it's bursting at the seams now at this point. And we get to see that, kind of firsthand. And, kind of with that said, the people who are in charge of developing those first round picks and, turning them to future NHL players, future Avalanche players, we saw Ryan Tobler, he left, and we got, Brett Clark coming in and doing his thing, and saw some improvements there. And then obviously Greg Cronin's been with the organization since the birth of the AHL days. And, I kind of want to just pick your brain on that front. And I have a personal connection to Greg Cronin. I love that guy. And I think he's done great things for those prospects, and I know everyone respects him and whatnot. But from your end of things, how have you seen him grow, as a coach, and how have you seen some of these prospects grow, under the guide of Greg Cronin over the last 3 years?
For me, you look at it, and here's a guy that's been in hockey forever, and at every level, and it's impressive to see what he's done, what his resume looks like, and to me, it's just not necessarily even him growing. It's just him refining and fine tuning and trying to pair up his skill set with the newest generations of players that are coming up, and what they're accustomed to, and how they learn the game, and the way they've learned the game coming up to this point. And maybe they don't respond to certain tactics as well as others, but it seems like that message has been getting through. And the way I gauge it is looking at what guys like Ryan Graves say, and looking at what guys who have come down and spent time with the Colorado Eagles and have eventually gone on to the NHL have had to say about the way that they have developed as a player based on what he has done and what that staff has done and their training. And it is true. And they want to win games. There's no question about that. There's no way you fill up that Budweiser Event Center if you're going to go out and, hey, everybody, I hope you have a good time and just get a little bit better. You want to win games, but they want those guys, each and every one of them, to get their crack in the National Hockey League. And at that point, you take that skill set and you take those lessons you learned and you try to make the absolute most of them. And I think you look at a guy like Ryan Graves, he's the model for that. That's exactly what, you want to see from your NHL to AHL affiliate and that pipeline going up. Now, was he drafted by the Avalanche? No. But again, guys don't have to come in the absolute order that you hope that they come, which is, the express elevator right to the top, and you bypass the AHL and everything is easy, and you're not going to change teams. It just doesn't work that way. And guys move at their own pace too. So, I think everybody expects first-round picks to spend 5 games at the most in the AHL, and then you're going to come up and you're going to be a star. You're going to be an absolute superstar. Well, it doesn't always work that way. And I think you look at different players on different teams, not just with the Avalanche. The process of getting where you need to be individually, it varies. It's absolutely different from player to player. So again, I think some guys, they need to put on size. Other guys, they need to learn, how to be a professional. Other guys need to learn how to win battles along the wall and be heavy on a puck and things that they never had to do up until this point, and things that they were able to survive on that they can't survive on alone now as you start to get in the AHL and especially as you move towards the NHL. So it's an important step. And I think that's one thing that's great for fans to see is, kind of tamp down some of the frustration. I get it. Being a fan is great. And that's what's fun is you can get frustrated. That's great. But, just because it doesn't happen right away doesn't mean that it's not going to happen and come out in a hugely successful manner.
That's actually, a fantastic segue into, what I want to talk about. Cause I mean, you're exactly right. I mean, you talk to guys like Ryan Graves and Logan O'Connor, and they will not say enough good things about, Greg Cronin and the staff down in Loveland and just the preaching of details. That's a big word that, Logan O'Connor loves that word. Ryan Graves loves that word. Tough love, details. It's all these things that, Greg Cronin's brought, and I wouldn't be in the NHL if it weren't for, Greg Cronin and what he does down there. Those guys maybe, they developed a little bit quicker, but you got the fans also that you have the guys like Shane Bowers and Martin Kaut, who are former first round picks, and you saw Alex Newhook just play half a dozen games with the Eagles, and like, well, he's a bona fide NHL player now, and you got Martin Kaut kind of waiting on the wings, and we'll kind of jump ahead to a fan question. We usually save these towards the end, but I think it's a good time to kind of pull you in, and we had a question actually about Martin Kaut. I think it was probably directed towards you, but Avery McGrail at 1996 Avs 17 says, what is Martin Kaut's development path from here? Is it with the Avs? Because I know, it's a sticking point for a lot of people. It's a point of frustration that, a lot of people feel like Martin Kaut hasn't gotten his fair chance with the Avalanche and, what's going on with him down in Loveland. So, I'm interested to hear your take as a guy who's seen every single game that he's played, in an Eagles uniform and presumably, some of the Avs games as well. Where is he at with his development? How have you seen him grow over the last, 3 years, and what's your take on where he's at right now?
You know what? I know that first of all, this is where I think it's really good that the Avalanche now have the system that they have in place, where you're not getting on a plane and going to San Antonio or Hershey or Cleveland to watch your players. I mean, Joe Sakic and Chris McFarland and Craig Billington, they're up there all the time. In the case of Craig Billington, you're there every single day. So, you have a lot of eyes on these prospects. You have a lot of conversations that go on with the coaching staff and amongst the front office. And I thoroughly trust what those guys have to see, what they decipher from what they see. But you know what? I think, at least from just my personal experience watching from the broadcast booth and as a layman, I think that Martin Kaut has first and foremost really grown physically. And when he first came in, he looked like a young kid. And he looked like a kid that you say, he probably needs to put on 20 or 25 pounds to be the player that he needs to be. He needs to put on some muscle, and he has. And I noticed that when we came back, and all of a sudden you've been off for, the better part of a year, and you see Martin Kaut walk in January, and you say, wow, he was serious about getting himself in a physical shape where he could compete and he could try to take that next step. And I think for Shane Bowers, again, the sky's the limit. And I think that, at least conversations that have been had with Greg Cronin and some of our pregame discussions we've had on the air is, towards the end of the year, he said, hey, I want to see him be harder on the puck. And I want to see him, winning those battles in the corners and along the walls. And those are things that we want to see from him. And again, these are coaches that have conversations with the front office all the time. And you know what? Guys make those steps. And as you'd said, Ryan Graves, there were areas that they just felt like he wasn't living up to his potential and he needed to get better. And he addressed those and he got to himself to where he is right now. But, I think you also have to look at the fact that if guys like Shane Bowers and Martin Kaut were right now on your second or third line, your team probably wouldn't be what the Colorado Avalanche are right now. And, you'd be looking for a lot of complementary pieces just based on the fact that this is a really deep team that the Avalanche brought into this season and what you're looking at them moving in forward. So, it's tough to crack that lineup. And, for some guys, maybe playing on the fourth line isn't where you're going to find your greatest success, but that's probably where they're going to need you in a season like this. And when you get put on the taxi squad, everything got turned upside down. And you have guys that are sitting out for weeks at a time, and all of a sudden, that you have a shift, and the guys are coming back to the Eagles, and now somebody else is going up to the taxi squad. So, it was tough, I think, in this year to really get a foothold and to really, I think, put in that full season of close to 70 games where you can show your wares and really, I think, translate that to the front office, to the coaching staff, to the fans, that what you're capable of and being able to take that next step. Because just as it was a really strange year for everybody, it was just that same way, for every one of those players. And even into the season, it was a strange year. And those bumps, I think, sometimes get magnified, and it's not just for this organization, it's for any. But, I think to make a long story short, you're running into a lot of different issues, but a lot of them are good. It's a deep team. You've got a lot of good players, and you can afford to be a little bit patient, and you can afford to, make those moves when you need to. And sometimes it's easy to put in a plug and play option. And I think you look at a plug and play like Kiefer Sherwood this year. I mean, Kiefer Sherwood, he was absolutely a game changer when he played for the Colorado Eagles. And then you get him to the NHL level, and I think a lot of Avalanche fans said, well, this guy can play. And this guy does not look out of place whatsoever here. Now, was he a first-round pick of the Avalanche, or did they acquire him as a first-round pick? No. But you know what? He's a guy that can be inserted into the lineup, do a lot of things very well for you, and give you a chance to win while you're developing someone else and being patient. So, I think that's the toughest thing as a fan is sometimes just being patient. But I think it can pay off in the long run. And I think for those two guys, it really will.
Yeah. You touched on a couple good points. I mean, that's exactly it. There's such a wealth of riches. It's such a deep team, and the fans need to understand that. And the players, maybe it's a bit frustrating for them too, because it's just such a well-stocked system, and that's a credit to Joe Sakic, Craig Billington, Chris McFarland, all those guys that have put in so much work over the years to get this team as deep as it is. And it's a good problem to have. It's a wealth of riches, and you can take your time with the Martin Kauts and the Shane Bowers, and you don't need them right now. I mean, the team is deep, and Avalanche for President's Trophy winners this past season, and they'll have their time to shine. But the biggest thing I think that fans need to understand, and you touched on it too, is just they can afford to take their time with that. And I know it's frustrating for fans, and maybe for the players too. That obviously Martin Kaut, I know it. I've talked to him before. Like, he wants to play. He wants to be an NHL player, and he knows he's a first round draft pick, and he's he thinks that he should be in the NHL by now because of that first round tag that he has falling hanging over his head. And I think they can afford to take his time, and I think he's grown, matured physically as a player. He's gotten a lot more confident in the games that I've seen from, just his rookie season, the first year in the AHL, and then to now, he's not afraid to hit, and he's kind of morphed into a different player. He's, maybe not a goal scorer like a lot of people assume first round picks are supposed to be, but he's going to be a great, middle six, bottom six kind of guy for the Avalanche. And, I think we're all excited to see where he goes with that.
And I think one thing to add is, there's always that concern of, well, if this player has not gotten to the NHL by this point, he must really be in a bad place psychologically and emotionally, and that's got to really grind on him and wear on him. Yeah, everybody wants to get to the NHL on that team. There's not one guy that plays for the Eagles that doesn't at one point want to be in the NHL, and that is their number one goal in their career professionally, and it's what drives them. But a lot of it is dictated by your attitude, and I can tell you with both Shane Bowers and Martin Kaut, they have incredible outlooks, and they want to come out and they want to get better. And I think they believe in what Greg Cronin, the staff, what the front office with the Avalanche tell them as far as, hey, this is where we need you to be better. This is where your game needs to improve for you to be an everyday player for us. And I think that they commit to that, and they realize it. Yeah, everybody gets frustrated when you don't get to where you want to be from a professional standpoint, and especially as a player when the reward is so huge on the other side. But as long as you keep that positive attitude, big things can happen. And for both those guys, I can tell you their attitudes have been absolutely tremendous their entire time here in Northern Colorado.
Kevin, when I reached out to you to come onto the program, I said, "Oh, it'll be 15 to 30 minutes," and we are pushing the 30-minute limit here. So
I'll just bill you for the hour.
Oh, okay.
We'll round up. We got it. Yeah.
Put it on our tab.
I'll get 2 of these now.
There you go.
It'll be between two ferns. The
That's
Kevin
right.
McGlue edition. Oh well, hey, we had one more fan question before we let you go, Kevin, and it's a little bit more of a looser one, and it's from one of our dedicated listeners that always puts in a fun, more, like I said last episode, it was favorite Arnold Schwarzenegger movies. So this episode, The Running Man. See, I brought up The Running Man, and Scott's like, I don't know what you're talking
CC
about.
named every single Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. I was like, I know The Terminator. That's I'm gonna go with that one. That's all I know.
I was pulling out Conan. I was pulling out The Sixth Day. Just random. Yeah, yeah. Anyway, and I did a really bad Arnold Schwarzenegger impersonation, which I won't pull out this episode, but I digress. All right, so Gil Mainklang at Gil_Mainklang, he asks, what are your top 3 favorite sauces from a store, restaurant, homemade, whatever you like? And Kevin, being our guest, would you like to go first or would you like to defer?
I'll go first.
Okay.
I'll go first. Why not? Top 3. Having put zero effort into thinking about this ever in my life, I would say there is. Are we allowed to mention restaurants? I don't want to get you in trouble.
Yeah.
Restaurants are fine.
Yeah,
Maybe
we'll get we might get a sponsorship out of this. So fire away.
There you go. Well, we have a great Eagles partner, and I'm not saying this because of that, but Wing Shack is an awesome partner. They have a golden hot wing sauce that is my absolute favorite in the world, and we travel around quite a bit, and you can have wings at different places. That is my absolute favorite. Number 1. Number 2, I think you'd have to go with the sauce. You know what? Maybe like a man, are we just going straight soy sauce type stuff? That works for me.
Yeah, I was also going to say that.
Right? Does that ever go wrong on anything?
I'm a big soy sauce guy.
I'm a big
I just wish it was like a little bit, healthier for you and not so salty. But damn, it's good.
I can see that. I would put that in there as a strong number 2. And you know what? As a number 3, maybe some sort of a pesto sauce. Yeah.
And you and I think a lot.
Yeah.
We're on the same page, I think. He got like probably 2 out of 3. I'll just backpack. I would say probably my favorite ranch. I'm just thinking dipping sauces, probably, but I'd say ranch dressing. I'm one of those guys who, whether it's fries or pizza, like I'm putting on everything, but it's got to be right. There's some restaurants, like I don't like the Hidden Valley stuff, but there's some restaurants that really nail it, and those are great. Wing Shack actually has a phenomenal ranch. They're really good. Then I'd say soy sauce, and that's close. I would say just a classic buffalo sauce is there for me. I don't really like any other wings that are like, I don't like barbecue wings. I don't like garlic, sweet, whatever it is. I'm just straight just buffalo sauce. And that's it. It's the number 3 spot between pesto and soy sauce, but I gotta go with pesto. Those are my top 3 there.
Great minds.
In that order.
Great minds.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go completely against everything that you guys just said.
You're going to go fancy, like Bernays and...
No. I'm not going to go like way off kilter here, but my top 3, I'm going to say I'm a big barbecue sauce guy. And so Stubbs barbecue sauce is bueno in my book. So Stubbs for barbecue sauce. And then I'm going to go I'm going to stay in the wing realm, but I really, really enjoy the Parmesan garlic wing sauce that they put on there at Buffalo Wild Wings. Sorry to go against the Wing Shack, promotion and everything there, but But hey,
I will give you this before we get off of the sauce topic. If you want to see a really good YouTube video, just Google Hot Wing Challenge Emergency Room, and I think you're going to be in for a real treat. It's one of my favorites. I try to watch it at least once a week.
Oh my goodness!
I think your viewers will really enjoy it.
Oh, Hot Wing Challenge.
Yes, it is. It's a gentleman that tries all the hottest sauces, and it goes sideways really quick. It's fantastic.
Yikes! Yeah, I am not a fan of those uber spicy sauces at all. So
it's fun stuff.
But my number three sauce. So I got the Parmesan garlic. I got the barbecue sauce. My number three would probably, you guys go with pesto. I'm gonna stick with the Italiano. I'm gonna say a nice good Alfredo sauce is really tasty. So I'll go with that. And as a runner up, kind of as a little tip of the cap to Boise Fry Company has probably one of the best Chipotle ketchups that you will ever have. So honorable mention, shout out to Boise, Idaho, my old stomping grounds. So
I'm shocked none of us said ketchup, by the way. I was expecting that to be in everyone's top three, but I'm not a huge ketchup guy. That's which my roommate's probably listening in on this. He's from Pittsburgh, where Heinz is a religion there, and he puts it on everything. I mean, literally everything. But it's just not mine.
It's a hardworking condiment that does all the heavy lifting and gets absolutely zero credit, but that's how it goes sometimes.
Yeah, right. Tomatoes in deep, putting in the sauce, and I'm trying to put in a hockey analogy here. It's not working out too well. I'm like, tomatoes in deep, ketchup really, pulls its weight, and it's a real good role player in the condiment game. Yeah, real grinder. Yeah, absolutely. So, this was fun. This was great. So, Kevin, thank you for coming in on the off season. I know you're still a busy guy with the Eagles and everything, even though the players aren't hitting the ice and everything. But thanks for coming on Front Range Hockey, and we would be more than happy to have you back on the show in the future for sure.
I appreciate it. I look forward to it. And again, I appreciate all you guys do and your great coverage of not only the Eagles, but the Avalanche, everything up and down the Front Range and college hockey. There's a lot to be had here. So thank you guys, and we'll look forward to talking to you down the road.
Hey, thanks, Kevin. Likewise. Thanks, bud. Kevin McGlue, Colorado Eagles play-by-play broadcaster and media director. What a guy! That was fun. I've had Kevin on different shows and everything like that, and it was really really good to catch up with him and kind of
very knowledgeable fellow. I'll tell you that. He's
sure.
got the voice. Obviously, he's the voice of the Eagles, and great guy to have on the podcast, but very knowledgeable guy. And I hope he really hit it home. With the it's a point I think we've tried to make in various podcasts over the last year or whatever it is. Like everyone's always asking that question where Martin Kaut is and where Shane Bowers is, and it's kind of a segue into our coverage of the Avalanche. But everyone expects them to be because they're first round picks. They got that hanging over their head that they should be in the NHL by now, but. I mean, from what you've seen, what I've seen, and obviously Kevin, who's seen every single game that they've played, it takes time, and it's something special's brewing down there. Breathe, it'll happen eventually, but the Avs can afford to take their time, and they're in good hands with Greg Cronin and that staff down there, and obviously bringing in Brett Clark from the Avalanche, who's now an assistant over there in Loveland. It's good things are happening, and I'm excited to see where that comes, but.
Yeah, and the fact that the Avs, I just put out an article on Full Press Hockey about the Eagles, who is currently projected. The guys on two-way contracts that are probably going to be on the Eagles next season. The guys that got signed to one-way AHL contracts, I guess you could put it that way. Benjamin Tardif, we talked about him signing a 2-year AHL deal one way. He was offered a two-way deal with Montreal, or at least with the Laval Rocket of the AHL, and it was a two-way between that and the ECHL's, one of the ECHL's newest hockey teams, the Trois-Rivières Lions. Oh. Yeah, yep, nice. I said it.
Okay.
Wow. I went for it. Yeah, the Lions of TR. I'm not going to say it again because I'll butcher it. But anyway, yeah. So. Talking about these guys that are going to be playing on the Eagles next year, and there's a bunch of guys kind of up in the air. I don't want to spend too much more time on the Eagles, but it's like you got all these guys that were signed to two-way deals with the Avalanche, and I know you've got 50 contracts to spare. Obviously, you've got a lot of Avs free agents though too. So Sheldon Dries, Liam O'Brien was on an Avs contract this season, so was Kiefer Sherwood. TJ Tynan, I think a lot of that had to do with taxi squad, and having those guys available for the taxi squad and everything. And then Michael Vecchione, he was signed to an Avs deal as well. He's going to be an unrestricted free agent. So all those guys I just mentioned are free agents. And then you've got Kyle Burrows, who was on an Avs contract, Dan Renouf. Connor Timmins is a 10.2C restricted free agent, which is basically a fancy way of saying the Avs basically have all the rights to offer him a deal and to sign him again. So that's
I don't think any other
means.
team can tamper with that or try to sign him unless the Avalanche say they can. So
No. And then goaltending wise, you have Peyton Jones and Adam Werner, who are going to be free agents, and they are actually both restricted free agents. So Avs get first dibs on those guys too. But with all that said, there's one goaltender I left off of that list because he signed a 1-year, 2-way deal with the Avalanche on June 29th. And that, kind of a surprise to Avalanche fans and Eagles fans, I'm sure, Jonas Johansson coming back to the organization after getting acquired and people being like, oh, he's not a good number 2 for Grubes. And so that kind of throws a wrench. But Scott, let's transfer to the Avs. I mean, obviously you've got Grubauer. His contract situation needs to be resolved. Pavel Francouz is still under contract for the next couple seasons. And then you sign Jonas Johansson when you already signed Trent Miner to an entry-level contract. You've signed Justus Anunen to an entry-level contract. And so Scott, your opinion on all this goaltending wise?
Yeah, I mean, goaltending wise, it's an interesting situation because I wrote an article about this a couple weeks ago. Actually, what inspired me was our conversation. We talked a lot about the Grubauer situation on our last podcast 2 weeks ago. And I was like, it's an interesting topic to talk about. So I wrote about it, opened up the laptop, and kind of just went off. And it's a weird situation. Right now I think there's technically one NHL goalie that's like signed. I guess if you want to count Jonas Johansson in there, there's the Avs have 2 goalies right now. Your number 1 is Pavel Francouz. Your number 2 is currently Jonas Johansson, and then you got Trent Miner and Hunter Miska as well. But they're going to be ECHL guys.
Yeah.
If with Trent Miner, he's probably going back to the WHL, I would imagine, just to get more playing time there. But interesting situation. As my colleague Adrian Dater, Colorado Hockey Now, has he's been reporting, he's been following along closely with that, and reaching out to some sources on the matter. And as of a week ago, there were not even any conversations. Any negotiations had not been started on the Philip Grubauer camp. Recently, I think within the last week, they've begun talking, but it sounds like they're not really close to anything right now. And that's a interesting development. I think if Philip Grubauer wants anything more than, like $5-6 million. I mean, 6 is the absolute max, I think. And I would only go short term on that. And I think if he wants any more than that, you got to let him walk. You got to let him test the market. I think he might find that the market's, not that great. If it was any other season, you're not getting Sergei Bobrovsky money. You're not getting Andrei Vasilevsky money, even though, he was pitted up against Andrei Vasilevsky for the Vezina. Andrei Vasilevsky's a perpetual Vezina candidate. He's been really, really great for the last 4 or 5 years. Won a Stanley Cup last year. Is looking like he's about to win a Stanley Cup again this year. Go back to back. His credentials are certainly there, but Philip Grubauer is not getting $9 or $10 million like those guys are. And it's just the unfortunate salary cap for those players. With the cap not moving and COVID kind of screwing everything up with that. It's going to be tough, for him to get money. And I think what he wants to do is probably go test the market, go see what's out there. Does he want to take a hometown discount knowing this is damn well probably his best chance of all the teams that can afford to pay him, $5 or $6 million, maybe more. The Avalanche are still the best chance he has to win a Stanley Cup. It's like Tampa Bay, they might be projected to win the cup again next year. The Stanley Cup favorites, they don't need a goalie. The Panthers who kind of shocked the world and played really good and are expected to do really well next year too, they don't need a goalie. I mean, there's a lot of teams that can't afford to pay a goalie, or any of the favorites that need a goalie. So if he wants to win a cup, if he wants to see what's out there, it's certainly his prerogative. And you can't blame the guy either way. If he wants to take kind of a discount and sign for $4.5 million, I think is probably what the Avalanche want. then great. Sign with us and try to win a Stanley Cup over the next 2 years while the cup window's open. Or no one's going to blame him if the guy goes and chases the money. It's the best year he's had. It happened to happen in a contract year, which is all you can ask for as a player for your personal performance is to be a Vezina Trophy finalist in a year where you're looking to get a raise and you can go test the market. Good on him. No one's going to blame him for going to try to go chase the money, and maybe a team offers him 6.5 or 7 million to be their cornerstone guy. Maybe Seattle says, hey, like this is a guy we're willing to negotiate with and take if the Avs don't protect him, which they might not. It could be an interesting situation. So we'll see where that goes. I think he ends up staying. That's just kind of a gut feeling I have. But I think it's going to happen, after free agency. It might be after July 28th when that opens. I think he's going to go test, the market, try to get some phone calls going with the agents and teams. And, if a team offers him 7 million or anything more than the Avalanche and he takes it, then hey man, that's go get that bread, get that money. That's great. But I do have a feeling, just a gut feeling, that I think he comes back. He settles for, 5 million for the next 3-4 years, maybe, or maybe a 5x5 kind of thing, to be the goalie for the Avalanche. But we'll see. Interesting situation with the goaltenders. That's kind of the biggest question mark right now. With respect to those unsigned guys, we know, the Cale Makaras and the Gabe Landeskog's and those guys are going to get re-signed. But Philip Grubauer is probably the biggest question mark right now about where his head's at and what he wants to do. So, stay tuned. And 2 weeks to the day, if you're listening to this, live on Wednesday, the 7th, we got 2 weeks until that expansion draft is going to be televised, and we'll see what happens after that. And teams got a week to kind of negotiate before free agency opens up to the all the 31 teams on July 28th, and it's going to be an interesting year for the Avalanche. I think it's going to be a boring year. I think we talked about that a couple of weeks ago in the last podcast. I don't think there's going to be an exciting, signees, I guess, signings. But, I guess the biggest one right now is all eyes on Philip Grubauer's camp.
And, it's so Grubauer, I mean, people know that he won a cup as the secondary goaltender in Washington behind Braden Holtby. And so, he's been a Vezina finalist. Like you said, his stock is high. Like his stock is really high right now. So for him, like you said, to cash in on himself, to push all his chips to the middle of the table and say, I'm all in on me. I mean, this is the year to do it. I mean, he's a free agent. I mean, and I wouldn't blame him in the slightest. And like you said, you wouldn't either. Yeah. No, I mean, that's putting, it's taking everything that, okay, I've won a cup. I've been a Vezina Trophy finalist. He probably has a little bit of, hey, I want to win a cup as a primary goaltender though, as the guy. And so that's, and the Avs can give him the opportunity to do that for sure. But man, I mean, even culturally, like plugging into Denver, he's got the cowboy chic going on. He'll go up and ride horses up in the Denver foothills here. He'll go to a show at Red Rocks. You'll see him sporting that cowboy hat. It's just like he's at home here. And so, that's I think that's a fair gut feeling that you have that Grubauer will re-sign here for, possibly less money than he would get elsewhere. But on the other side of the coin, it's not something that you would be surprised if he did go elsewhere.
A huge discrepancy, it's like the Avs are in the 4.5 million range, and then a team comes out of nowhere and like we'll give you a 7x5, then that's a large discrepancy there. And I don't know what I would do, as a player. It's like I have 5 years at $7 million to go win a cup with whoever signs me, or do I take the discount for a 2 or 3 year deal? Knowing this is, the Avs window, and I like it in Denver, like you said, he's going to embrace the lifestyle, and, he goes running around Washington Park, and like, it's a whole thing. I think he lives a very humble life here in Denver. I think he likes it. Obviously loves his teammates, and, it's going to be a tough call for him. So I think that's what he's doing. I think he wants to market. Just don't think the market's going to be what he wants it to be, which sucks because, any other year, it's like you could have, gotten a nice raise, but unfortunately, just where everyone's at, everyone's so just cap crunched right now for the next year, 2 years. It's going to be tough to get that kind of money that he probably deserves. So again, my gut feeling, I think he stays here. whether the fans like it or not. I've seen a lot since I posted that. A lot of people are in the comments on that story, the article I wrote, and a lot of people on Twitter. It's like, let him walk, like, whatever. Like Grubauer blew it in the playoffs, and he doesn't have what it takes. And there's always going to be two sides of the coin, and the two extremes of the spectrum, I guess, where I think he deserves to stay. He's had a couple great years, a career year here in Denver, obviously Vezina, finalist. It's hard to come by those goalies that are consistent like he has been over the last 2 or 3 years. And, he seems to be kind of just hitting his stride. This is the first year he was healthy. He carried the load for the whole season, was healthy during the playoffs, which is another big thing that, it's kind of a tick against, his resume, I guess, is, he's not healthy when it matters. There's been a couple times in the playoffs with the Avs and with the Capitals where, he couldn't, his body didn't hold up. But, this year it seems a bit different. He took his training seriously, and he was, fully healthy and carried the load and played so damn consistently and finished as one of the best goalies in the league. And, it's hard to find those kinds of guys. So, I think the Avs, if it becomes kind of a bidding war, like someone's offering him $6 million, and the Avs are at 5, like, I think, hopefully Grubauer's camp circles back and be like, look, can we like meet somewhere in the middle? Like, Grubauer would love to stay. Let's get a 5.5 done, or maybe they match the 6. But, if he wants anything more than 6 and, teams are offering that, then I think you got to let him go. And like we talked about 2 weeks ago, there's a lot of good options out there, for some cheaper kind of rental options, some, one-off guys, knowing this is championship window. Do you go get a Pekka Rinne? Do you go get one of those guys that are, look at Carey Price. Everyone thought he was washed up and, his prime was over, but he single-handedly almost, carried the Canadians to where they're at right now. And it doesn't look like it's going to finish too great for them, but, he had a damn good year. And, why not go get, Pekka Rinne if he does want to walk, and, sign him for, a little $4 or $5 million deal, and just, put all your eggs in that basket and go try to win a cup again this year. But there's options out there. There are quite a few. So I think that's another thing that's going against, Philip Grubauer, is that, there's younger guys and, other guys that they maybe be more comfortable signing long-term over a Philip Grubauer. But the market's hot for goalies. It looks pretty good, heading into the off season. So, I don't know if there's going to be any bidding wars for Philip Grubauer, but, we'll see what happens, I guess. That's all we can say.
And man, going into our final segment, our favorite segment, Asking the Feed, it's amazing how many points that you touched on in regards to foreshadowing. So yeah, it's the last segment of the show, Asking the Feed. I don't even know where to start because, like I said, you hit on so many good points and so many of the questions that were asked.
I mean, you could hit Joseph Will's question. I mean, since we're talking about goalies in the market.
Yeah, let's do it. Joseph Wills at hockey_jerseys. I think there's actually 2 underscores there between hockey and jerseys. The Carolina Hurricanes correspondent for Full Press Hockey, of course, throwing that chip out there, throwing that hat in the ring. Go after Mrazek as a solid, less expensive starter and let go of Grub. Let me see what Mrazek earned this past season. He earned $3.125 million. So
he's probably due for a bit of a pay raise as well. But again, could be cheaper than a Philip Grubauer because he didn't have the same year. But I mean, his credentials are pretty good too. His resume looks solid. Yeah, Joseph. I mean, that's an option. I think I touched on a couple of. I went with the older guard. I think maybe Mrazek was a name I mentioned, but yeah, I wouldn't mind going for Pekka Rinne, or a guy that's pretty damn old. For goalies, I guess, but just give him a shot with a cup team. But I like Mrazek. He's played very, very well over the last few years. He's a pretty consistent goalie. He'd probably be a cheaper option than Grubauer. And again, that's going to be, a tough call for them to make. If Grubauer wants $6.5-7 million, the Avs just simply can't afford it, whether they want to keep him or not. Knowing you got to sign Landeskog to $7+ million a year. And then, obviously Cale Makar is going to get, Roman Josi money in the $9 million region. If they can get him down to 8, if he does a Sidney Crosby kind of thing where he goes, $8.7 million for number 87 for, 8 years, Cale Makar, if he does an 8x8, for number 8, I think that'd be cool. But, also like he deserves more than that. But we'll see. But any dollar you can save is going to be well utilized to sign some of these other guys that the Avs need. But back to Grubauer again. If he wants 6+, I think you got to let him walk, just knowing that there's other options out there, and kind of hope he takes a little bit of a hometown discount to stay in Denver. But you can't blame him if he walks, and I don't think Joe Sakic would blame him if he walks. I don't think the fans would blame him if he walks. It's just how it is. It's a business, and you got to take care of yourself and your family and whatnot. And a lot of the times that's financial. So yeah, it's going to be tough. But I like a Mrazek. I like a Pecorine. I like there's a couple RFA goalies out there like Igor Shesterkin or Sorokin. Some of those guys that offer sheet them. They're young guys that look super promising. And if you want to go all in on a young goalie, even though you do have some promising prospects kind of come up the pipeline with Eustace and Noonan, it's a tough call. And I'm excited to see. I think that's the only question mark I really have with the Avalanche. What they're going to do this offseason is where Philip Grubauer goes and how much they're going to pay him.
Yeah, and it's it's if he does walk, it's not the end of the world because you've got that one guy that filled in very admirably a couple seasons ago when Grubauer got hurt by the name of Pavel Francouz. So, I mean, it's definitely not the end of the world. And like you said, you've got those prospects coming up. Maybe Trent Miner starts to grow into it. I was impressed from what I saw when he was playing with the Eagles. Like you said, he could go back to the WHL and go play with the Vancouver Giants again this season. But yeah, it was definitely, that was another thing about this season is you had all those Canadian Hockey League major juniors guys that if their leagues weren't active, they were there, they were playing.
I should have talked to Kevin about that too. I was gonna pick his brain. Damn it! There's so many after right as soon as he hung up, I was like, shit. They were like, I wanted to this and this and this, but it went on for a while. Like we told him before, like CC alluded to, like we talked to him before we went live, and it's like, yeah, it should be 15 minutes, just a few questions for you. We'll bounce some shit out back and forth off each other, and then it ended up being 45 minutes as it usually does. And just like two podcasts or last podcast 2 weeks ago, like we had talked about that. Like, dude, what are we going to talk about? Like, there's really not that much, I guess. End of the season wrap. Like this will probably be a quick 45-minute episode. We're gonna be dragging along, and it was our longest episode yet. So
90 minutes later,
we need we're obviously terrible judges of time, but we have fun. We like to just go with the flow. That's what we do here.
And the people like it. The people want to hear the analysis. The people want Kevin McGlue on the show. So
we do pretty well. Yeah,
I think so. I mean, we're closing in on 25, so it's yeah, that's exciting. The quarter century mark already. It's crazy. But anyway, let's finish up asking the feed. We got a few more questions, and hopefully we'll finish up close to the hour mark. We'll see. But Jennifer Fisk at Jen with 2 N's, Fisk, asks, how much do you think Makar's contract will be and for how long? And Scott, you did say.
I didn't even see that question, but I guess I did kind of just answer that one, Jennifer.
Subconsciously, you knew 8 to 9, more up on the side of 9.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I'm just maybe 8.8, for 8 years. Just get all the 8s in there. But I think that's is 8 years the max? I think that's the max term now in the NHL is 8 years. So that works. I think he's going all 8 years. Like, I mean, the Avs would be remiss and, not smart to do anything, less than that. Lock him up for as long as you can. Yeah. So sign him to the 8-year deal. Maybe he settles on an 8 or an 8.8, but a lot of people are thinking it's going to be, $9+ million, and he absolutely deserves that. I mean, he looks like, the next Nicholas Lidstrom or, people have compared him to Bobby Orr. And like, you look at this guy's stats, for his first, I think he's coming up on 100 games, or if he might have already passed, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, his stats are crazy. He's up there with you see like all these big names, and then he's up there. It's like, it's pretty incredible to see. So I think he's a special young guy. I think, Avs fans obviously know that. It's been zero transition for him. He looks like an NHL All-Star, looks like a perennial NHL All-Star in his first, 2 quote unquote full seasons. And he's a special player, and you take care of your special guys. And yeah, I think you lock him up for as long as you can, and give him whatever he wants. And I think that's kind of what's also going back to the Grubauer situation. I think they're trying to decide on, I'm sure they're talking to Gabe Landeskog and Cale Makar first. Be like, let's feel out their agents and like how much are you guys trying to get, and how much we're going to have left to sign a Grubauer, and also have a couple million left over when, Seattle takes a player, to maybe lock up, there's guys like Tyson Jost, who's a restricted free agent, and, he needs to be re-signed. You got, Connor Timmins is another guy. People want to bring Brandon Saad back. And you got to also look down the pipeline in a couple of years when, Nathan McKinnon is going to get capital P paid. And I know he's gone on record famously for saying he'd take a discount for, if it meant his team would win a cup. And, obviously the dude wants to win a cup more than anything. And, he wears it on his face. And it was an emotional press conference at the end there and gave us, the quote of a lifetime where, it's like, yeah, I mean, we're always talking about next year because someone was talking about the championship window. I think it was Mike Chambers, the Denver Post. He's like, obviously this sucks. It sucks a lot. Like, you guys were the favorites. This looked like this was the year. You guys have a great team. But, there's something to be said about you still being in the middle of this, cup window. You guys have another year or two to really capitalize this. And he's like, yeah, for sure, man. I feel like we're always talking about next year. That's all we ever talk about. But, I've been here for like going in 9 years and I haven't won shit. And so, I mean, I do think he would take, a hometown discount, but how much of a discount? Yeah, I don't know. Like, I think he's going to be a guy that's going to get $8-9 million or, Mikko Rantanen money, who's, in the $9 to $10 million region. So there's a lot of things to, kind of think about just looking down the pipeline. Like you might have, and it's your core guys, like your top line, obviously, Nathan McKinnon, Mikko Rantanen, Gabe Landeskog, lock up your Cale Makars on the back end. The Connor Timmins, if you see a future in Denver with him, and you got a lot of guys that you need to re-sign, and they might take up a third of your salary cap with just 5 or 6 contracts, which is gonna hamstring them quite a bit. So it'll be interesting. That's something you also got to consider. When looking at Philip Grubauer, if he wants a lot of money, it's like, dude, like we can't afford to pay you past 2022, 23. Like it's just not going to happen. So. We can give you 2 years at $6 million or 6.5 if you want that, but like you can't go long term with it. So a lot of things to consider, and I'm not envious at all of Joe Sakic's job, and this is going to be the toughest offseason for him. In particular, he's won a lot of trades in his days with the Avalanche, and he's done a great job with managing the cap space with what he's had, but it's been tough with COVID the last year, and then this year the salary cap's not moving when normally it would, and there's just less money, and a lot of just really, really good players that deserve to get paid a lot of money. And you got to look at the future. It's not just like this year, like the Avs have 23 million in cap space. That's great. That's plenty. But you look into the 22-23 offseason and 23-24 when you got a lot of big guys that need to get paid too. So it's tough. And again, that's why I keep alluding to it. I think it's going to be a boring offseason. I think we're going to see a pretty young team next year. I think you're going to get a lot of, maybe Martin Kaut makes his debut because he'd be, a cheap alternative. And, Logan O'Connor is a cheaper guy. And I think they're going to have to go young. They're going to have to play a lot of their entry level guys just because, they're getting paid under $1 million, and that's all they can afford. So it'll be a unique year as it was this year. Less exciting offseason, perhaps some trades, need to be made. I think that's the only solution for Joe Sakic and the Avalanche now at this point is, to trade. You got to get rid of some cap, and maybe that involves buying out Eric Johnson. That's another interesting situation with this offseason. Having that $6 million on your books is not great when obviously the dude's adored. He's the longest tenured player left on the team, and the city loves him. His teammates absolutely adore the guy, and he's great on the back end when he's there. But the thing is, he's an aging body, and he has not been there for the better part of 2 seasons when they've needed him the most. So yeah, a lot to consider. And again, I would hate to be Joe Sakic, right now.
Yeah. Speaking of which, July 7th, 2021. Happy birthday, General Manager Joe Sakic.
Beat me to it. Yes. Yeah. I totally forgot to tweet something about that too, but yeah.
52 today. 52
Happy
years
birthday
young.
to the legend.
So, happy birthday to the 12-time All-Star, 2-time Stanley Cup winner. Happy
the best
birthday.
damn GM in the NHL. Even though he doesn't get the respect from the rest of the league, but he has keep your trophy, keep your Jim Gregory GM of the Year trophy. We know how special he is.
Absolutely. Last question. This one deviating from Colorado hockey, from Front Range Hockey. Now we're going large picture here. We're going macro. Durf Zuki, of course, deciding to blow up big on this question here. Fred J asks, can the Habs pull some magic tonight and win in Tampa? In a word, I say yes. Oh,
there you go. That's about all I can do with the French. But
très bien.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. I mean, I really, man, I was hoping I wanted to be an interesting NHL Stanley Cup playoffs. Obviously, I hope the Avalanche were going to be in it. I hope I was going to go to some Stanley Cup games and be able to cover those, and that'd be cool. Just selfishly, as fans, as reporters, whatever. Obviously, we want to see them there, but I was really kind of hoping for a New York Islanders Montreal Canadiens final. Just let's just blow up everything. Fuck the favorites. Let's just go with some underdogs, and I think that'd be fun. So with that said, obviously the Lightning returning Stanley Cup champs, they're blowing them out of the water. The first 3 games, the Canadians, struck back, kept their playoffs alive, but it's not looking great for them. But yeah, with that said, I'm really rooting for the Montreal Canadiens. I love the underdog story. We alluded to the Carey Price situation. A lot of guys thought he was, washed up and had nothing left to give, but it has really, turned it on. You just never know what's going to happen, and that's why the playoffs are fun. It's almost never the favorites that win. I've said that numerous times. It's whatever team is hot, whatever team has it, and hopefully one of these days it'll be the Avalanche. But I hope so. I don't think they're going to pull it off. I don't think they're certainly going to pull off a comeback. But I hope they keep it alive, just so we'll keep getting hockey on. So I hope they win tonight. But we'll see. Tampa Bay is a damn good hockey team. Even though we can get into their whole cap situation too. I mean, that's a situation that everyone hates, and that's really shiesty, I guess, in a word. But they're going to have a hell of an offseason themselves. So enjoy this cup run, and enjoy your repeat Stanley Cups. But it's going to be a lot of regression, over the next few years. So take solace in that, Avs fans and Canadians fans, and whoever else.
Yeah, and about halfway through the first period right now. It's about 6:40 Mountain Daylight Time.
There you go.
About 8:40 Eastern Daylight Time. So halfway through the first, we've got goose eggs on both sides. 0-0, Montreal and Tampa Bay. So
Tampa Bay's out shooting them 10-2, though. It's never a good thing.
Oh,
they're on
boy.
a 5-on-3 too. So.
Oh, geez. Well, we'll see if Carey Price can hold up under that crucible of pressure that Tampa Bay always brings. Oh my gosh. Godspeed, Carey Price. Godspeed. Scott, I think this is a first, but I don't know if you noticed, but we did not get one question. As we approach less than 3 weeks away, we did not get one question about the Seattle expansion draft.
You know what? I was expecting to get quite a few, to be honest with you. That should be what's on everyone's mind right now.
Right?
I'll be cranking out the content. I just posted a story, about my predictions for what the Avalanche are gonna possibly do, and who I if I was in GM Joe Sakic's shoes, who I would expose and who I would protect, and maybe some of the answers might surprise you, and I make a prediction as to who Seattle will take as well. So go give that a read, put some eyes on that. But I'll be writing a couple of columns on that too, and I think it's gonna be fun to watch. They're gonna have it televised this year, and that'll be exciting to see how that production turns out, and also to see who they take. So I'm looking forward to it.
That is must see TV. That is for sure. Over there, is it gonna be? I think it's gonna be on ESPN.
Yeah, ESPN2, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The Deuce.
Deuce, as they call it.
Deuce, as they called it. And back in the hip 90s, it was the Deuce, ESPN2. Back when hockey was on ESPN and will be again, thank God.
I love that they're bringing it back. Yeah, that's awesome. I'm glad that ESPN's finally just acknowledging that, hockey is a growing sport, and, there is more sports other than just, basketball and football out there. So I'm glad they're bringing that back. They should have never gotten rid of it. And, they're bringing out the old cast. You got Barry Melrose coming back. And
Steve Levy.
Steve Levy as well. And you got some exciting new, additions as well. So I think the production is going to be great. I'm looking forward to ESPN picking up some coverage, and I'm really, really looking forward to, 2 weeks to the day when we get to see some expansion draft action.
Yeah. Get your popcorn ready, as T.O. always says. Not just used to, but even currently. Get your popcorn ready for sure. Well, that is it for episode number 24 of the Front Range Hockey Podcast. And thank you guys for tuning in. Don't forget to follow our show on pretty well any major podcast platform. Google, Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, you name it, we are probably on it. So give us a follow, subscribe on any of those platforms. And also, if you aren't already, please give our Twitter account a follow. As you can see the handle scrolling below if you're watching live on YouTube or later on in video format. That's at Front RNG Hockey. And Scott, like you alluded to, you've got some articles in the hopper. So where can the people find your wonderful work? And you got to pay for that action, but not too much.
Yeah, I was going to say, so you beat me to it there. But yeah, ColoradoHockeyNow.com, working alongside Adrian Dater. We're cranking out content as much as we can. And used to during the season, it's multiple stories a day, on average. But obviously with how slow things are, it's a slow time in the NHL. But expect that to crank up, like I kind of said just a second ago. Expansion draft coverages, we're ramping that up a little bit. I just posted a story yesterday on that. That is not one of the free ones. That is a subscriber only story. But DM me, I'll get you a code. And don't tell Dater, but I post a lot of my stories for free. I'd say 80% of my stories I don't hide behind a paywall. So yeah, go to ColoradoHockeyNow.com and go check out that coverage. But again, DM me if you want a discount. I think it's $19.99 for the entire year, and I did the math once, and it averages out to be like 2 cents a story, just based on, I think we post on average like 800 pieces a year. So a lot of shit to read. So go give it. I'd like to think it's a worthwhile investment, but maybe I'm a little bit biased. But other than that, you can find my other stuff at on Twitter at offscottfree, at 0FFscottfree. I'm there all the time with my news and opinions, and a lot of opinions. And it's fun. Come interact with me. Let's chat. Let's debate. Let's talk hockey.
Hockey talk. Yes. And of course, my name is CC Hawkley, and I enjoy talking hockey as well on the Twitters. And you can follow me on there. I have control of the FPC_AHL account at FPC_AHL. That's the Full Press AHL account, as you probably gathered. And then I've also got my personal account at CC Hawk. That's SEESEEHAWK. See what I did there? A little wordplay. But yeah, give me a follow on both of those accounts. And yes, you'll find hockey in abundance for sure. So you can find my written work at Full Press Hockey. Like I mentioned earlier in the show, put out an article about the Eagles, who is currently on the roster, who has left. 4 Eagles have officially left, 3 of them to Europe, 1 of them to the Laval Rocket. Alex Fortin announced a few days ago that he left. But that's all at www.fullpresshockey.com. And you can check out this podcast and a ton of other great hockey podcasts, plus other great sports pods on the Full Press Radio Network at fullpresscoverage.com. So thank you for taking your time and listening in to our show with the abundance of hockey shows, both on the Full Press Network and at large. We're big in Sweden, apparently, still charting over there. Unbeknownst to Scott, yes, but yes, we are on the Swedish Apple podcast charts. So there you go. But that'll do it. For Scott McDonald, I'm CC Hawkley. All the guys, gals, and non-binary pals listening in, again, thank you. We appreciate your listenership, your viewership. And as always, we want you to stay colorful, my friends, coming here in the colorful state of Colorado. So until next time, have a great summer, and we will see you then. Bye.
Bon voyage.
Oui.